night on the CINA 102.3 app at CINAFM.com, on TuneIn, on smart speaker, and at 102.3 FM. CINA Radio, every device, everywhere. The following program does not necessarily reflect the opinions of the management, staff, or advertisers of CINA Radio.
Joumana Kayrouz. You've seen her images on giant billboards across the metro. Joumana Kayrouz. You've seen her images on buses across the city. Now get to know Joumana Kayrouz.
The war broke out in my home country, Lebanon. I was 11 years old, and I saw a lot of bloodshed and inequality and poverty. You can't grow up in an environment like that and not be affected by it and not want to make a difference. I graduated from Yale University with a master's in ethics. I speak 4 languages. It has always been innate in me, fighting for the underdog and trying to do whatever it is I can to make a difference in the world.
Let Joumana Kayrouz protect your rights. Call the law offices of Joumana Kayrouz at 1-866-YOUR-RIGHTS, extension 100, or visit yourrights.com.
برنامج يور رايتس مع المحامية جومانا كيروز المختصة في قضايا حوادث السيارات، مع نخبة من المحامين في اختصاصات عدة منها الطلاق والهجرة والإفلاس، يأتيكم الآن على الهواء مباشرة. تحية طيبة لكم مستمعي راديو سينا، أهلا بكم مرة أخرى في حلقة جديدة من برنامج يور رايتس مع المحامية جومانا كيروز. على الهواء مباشرة نستقبل اتصالاتكم 313-769-6666 519-256-103. حلقة اليوم مخصصة عن الضمان الاجتماعي وبالتأكيد إصابات العمل، ويفضل أن تكون الأسئلة في إطار هذه المواضيع المطروحة إن شاء الله. مكاتب المحامية جومانا كيروز تستقبل قضاياكم المتعلقة بالبيرسونال انجري، كار اكسيدنتس، قضايا الهجرة والتجنس، قضايا الإفلاس، الكريمنال لو، فاميلي لو، سوشيال سيكوريتي، وقضايا إصابات العمل. الاستشارات مجانية، والرقم في مكتب المحامية جومانا كيروز 248-557-3645. بإمكانكم زيارة الموقع الإلكتروني yourrights.com/radio للاستماع إلى هذه الحلقات مرة أخرى، أو زيارة قناة جومانا كيروز على اليوتيوب. تحية طيبة لكم، أهلا وسهلا جومانا.
صباح الخير رامي، صباح الخير لكل المستمعين، وصباح الخير للمحامي مايكل روث. Good afternoon, Michael.
Hello, good afternoon.
I love the yellow that you are wearing.
Thank you.
And it looks like the sun is coming out. It's turning into another beautiful day.
Yes.
Welcome to everybody. I want to begin by telling our listeners that for the remainder of the hour, first off, I do apologize. I was 5 minutes late. And I was reminded as I was driving, Rami, you're going to appreciate that because we talked about it before. Instead of speeding and exposing yourself, I could have sped a little bit and cut corners to make it here on time. And because I was held up by a long distance call before leaving, instead of speeding and risking getting a ticket, and more importantly, risking, hurting myself or hurting others, I accepted psychologically that I could arrive here 5 minutes late. In the scheme of things, it's just 5 minutes versus getting a ticket and now going into court and then paying it and all of that, and the aggravation. I don't know anyone who gets a traffic ticket and is happy about it. People get a little bit upset and personal about it, or God forbid if I had gotten involved in a car accident, hurting myself and hurting others. So I do apologize for being late. Sometimes that kind of happens, but I made it here safely rather than rushing and making it here on time.
That's
really good decision. And Rami, we talked about that in the context of driving in inclement weather and when there is snow, and how we said, give a lot more time for yourself. If a trip takes you half an hour, give it 45 minutes, give it 50 minutes. But then, sometimes we're not wired to do that, and we're not wired to take into consideration that because of the weather, we should leave early. Sometimes we can't leave early. And within that context, if you remember, Rami, I said, let's prepare ourselves psychologically for arriving late, and so what? In other words, when you can leave in advance so that you don't expose yourself and others to danger when the weather is bad, by all means do that. Sometimes people either don't remember or don't have the time. So if that means that because you haven't allowed yourself the extra time, because you need to decelerate slowly, you need to accelerate slowly, you need to keep a huge distance between you and the cars in front of you, then prepare yourself psychologically for the fact that you can arrive late to your destination and it is totally okay. So today was one such example, except that the weather wasn't bad, but I was running a little bit late because I had an overseas call, and so what? I arrived 5 minutes late is better than, getting a ticket and or injuring ourselves. You want to say something about that?
Just you never know who's driving next to you, and if they're in the same kind of hurry and same kind of panic, it's
now the risk is doubled.
That's
there is
right.
your behavior and then the behavior of others. And we've always said, I know today's discussion is about social security benefits and workman's compensation. We've always I don't remember. I was going to say something I completely forgot, but
we try to be careful.
Yes, we've always said that you can't control the behavior of others.
No,
but you have control over your behavior. You have control over whether or not you reach for that phone and get distracted other ways and speed. When you don't control your behavior because you're in a rush, and then you take into consideration other factors and other people, the likelihood, God forbid, of something bad happening increases exponentially. Right?
You can't tell.
Yes. Again, we want to welcome Attorney Michael Roth, who has joined our office and is founding the Social Security Benefits and Workmen's Compensation Department, and has 31 years of experience representing claimants in Social Security benefits, Social Security disability benefits, and workmen's compensation, in addition to
the Supplemental Security Income, the SSI.
SSD, and as I am learning about this subject, because I don't know enough, and as I am preparing so that, I can conduct a good, session on the radio, I am realizing that there is a lot I don't know. I went yesterday and I stayed up till 1 a.m. I was on the Social Security Administration's website because SSI and SSD, they are federally regulated and they are also state regulated. That's why, the federal government, may say the maximum number of SSI per person is this much nationally and this much for family, but then the state in which you live, may add to that pot. But the bottom line is, I spend a lot of time. I see, Rami, that you pulled out Michigan police agencies to increase patrol for distracted driving. Distracted driving this month.
Awareness.
Distracted driving awareness month,
yes,
or something like that. Distracted driving crashes in Michigan increased by 57%, and the number of fatalities increased by 67% from 2006 to 2017, because from 2016 to 2017, oh my God, in 1 year it increased 67%.
Exactly.
Oh my God, that is shocking. That is really, really shocking. In 1 year, it increased 70%.
A lot of it involves not pedestrians, non-vehicles, unfortunately, because of distraction, people in crosswalks.
You mean distracted walking?
Well,
and some cities in the United States, they now give tickets for distracted walking.
They do.
And if you can go up for a minute, Rami, it says here, when you're behind the wheel, keep your phone out of reach.
Right, that's
out
right.
of reach. That's I had a commercial where I said, when you're driving, don't use your phone. Better yet, throw it in the back. Throw it in the back. Now, does the person who did the commercial, is she applying what she gave? Let's just say that when I did the commercial, I could look at the camera with a straight face and say that. And clearly between then and now, change, because the phone is not in the back anymore. We should go back to that. We should go back to that. 20,000 accidents in Michigan
2017.
during 2017 for distracted driving. Now, distracted driving can be because you're trying to speed. It can be because you're playing with your phone. It can be because you're playing with the music, fixing your hair, putting your makeup on. It can be a number of things. That's really shocking. Thank you, Rami. So going back, that was so timely, Rami. Thank you. Going back to yesterday, I stayed up till 1 a.m. and I was looking at the Social Security Administration, which is a website. It's a federal website. It's the government. It's a federal website. And why is it a federal website? Because SSI, SSD, Social Security Retirement, Medicaid, Medicare, these are governmental benefits and these are federal benefits. So the laws are the same, having across the United States. Having said that, the states and the agencies of every state may choose to add a little bit to the minimum that the federal laws require. For example, they say, I'm reading from the source. They say that in SSI, how much can you get in 2019? And the Social Security Administration says it's the same nationwide.
That's right.
It is $771 for one person, for SSI, and if it is a couple, it's $1,157 for a couple. However, here is what they add. You may get more if you live in a state that adds money to the federal SSI payment. So this is how, when you move from state to state, your SSI payments may go up or may go down, never below the federal level. And again, the federal level for 2019 in SSI is $771 for one person and $1,157 for a couple. I just want to, before we start, having a conversation here rather than a monologue, I printed some of the fabulous resources that are available on the Social Security Administration, and I so very much look forward to discussing those today and in future shows so that I can educate it and we can help educate others. This is one that says, when are you able to apply for SSI? This one is SSI for children with disabilities. This one is, we talk about in SSD, we talk about credits. So this pamphlet that I'm looking at, that I printed from the Social Security Administration, gives you even like a sheet here. It says, for example, that in 2019, a lot of people ask, do I have enough credits to qualify for, have I worked long enough? Have I made enough? So that if I'm applying for SSD, do I have enough credits to qualify? Well, here is what they say. In 2019, for every $1,360 you make, you get one credit, and the maximum you get is 4 credits per year. I'm looking at page 3 of that same pamphlet, and it talks about if you're getting a disability between age 31 and 42, you need 20 credits to get SSD. For example, if you are 48 years old, you need 26 credits. If you are 50, you need 28 credits. If you are 54, you need 32 credits.
That's right.
If you are 60, you need 38. So unbelievable. So that's another one. Here is another pamphlet that talks about how work affects your benefits. And the question here is, can you get Social Security and work at the same time? And how much can you make and save? Here is another that talks about what happens if you are outside the United States. We briefly talked about it the other day. What are your duties and do you need to report and what happens to your check and, all of that good stuff. And that's just, and the last one here is, that one we've gone over. So much information on the Social Security Administration. And yet, even I, as a lawyer who has 20 years of experience and who knows quite a bit about SSI, SSD, and what have you, I still found it to be very general. Very, very general. There are exceptions. There are, different incomes. it's not that easy because they talk very generally. For example, when they talk here about, benefits for children with disability, they will tell you generally that they will look into the income, if any, of the child, but they will also look at the income of the parents in the house, but they don't tell you exactly. They don't give you formulas. They don't give you calculators.
In addition to those documents, they have policy operation manuals in which either the social worker or the person who's administering the benefits will review with the family. It's a sit-down or it's an application process, and they go through A through Z or A through F, whatever is required.
Right. It's not just income. It's also whatever the family has by way of resources.
That's
and
correct.
What qualifies as a resource.
Right.
In other words, it's pretty complicated.
And besides the blessings with being on board the firm, you're not going to find a lot of attorneys who have the resources, the time, and the ability to represent people on these particular minute issues.
However, there are a lot of Social Security SSI attorneys out there.
SSD, because what's happening...
SSD.
There's going to be a reluctance among private attorneys. I mean, if they find a legitimate SSI case, they'll take it on, providing there's really not a lot of dispute behind it. If the disability is clear.
If it's a straightforward,
that's right.
Classic SSI case.
The idea of spending time in the administration litigating whether or not someone is, let's say, technically a stepchild, or if the adoption was legitimate, or for that matter, how many actual dependents are in the house, or what the income is in that household.
Yes.
You're not going to find attorneys throughout the state, except here, who can actually spend time analyzing
You sound like a salesman.
Well, I'm not trying to be a salesman.
But you sure do sound like...
Well, I'm not trying to. I'm just saying I've never had the time.
No, frankly, with your years of experience, have you found, and I know you are an honest man, have you found that, generally speaking, Social Security, SSI and SSD attorneys, they prefer the classic cases, not the ones where there is this little red herring and there is that, exception that falls outside the rule, and you have to truly be an advocate in order to get that person the SSI benefits that they deserve, or the SSD benefits that they deserve, correct?
Yes. Enough.
So that is why I've heard a lot of Social Security lawyers say, we like volume. And I always say, well, but how much volume can you do? And do a good job and educate the client and listen to them and understand the difference from one scenario to the other. You cannot do a whole lot of volume and be able to, truly sit and hear and understand,
Depending on how many years experience the attorney has, they may know that answer from a past case. It's not going to take up the 40 minutes it took the last time to find the answer. It's only going to take 5 minutes once they hear the issue from the client. So both volume and years of experience.
Well, experience, there is no substitute for experience.
No.
You can graduate first in your class, but it's by doing that you learn. It's not by reading a manual. You do not learn by reading a driving manual. You read the driving manual and then you start practicing. There is nothing that you learn by, including becoming a lawyer. You do not learn to become a lawyer by going to law school for 3 years. No. It's the beginning, but you really learn the first day you're out of the classroom and you start, practicing. There is no substitute for experience. Even if you have the IQ of a genius, and even if you graduated first in your class, experience has nothing to do with that. Now, if you're highly intelligent, it may be faster for you to catch on. But unless you've done it, unless you've come across it, unless you've handled it, you've read about it, you thought about it, but you don't really know it. You don't really know it.
I wouldn't short sell younger attorneys because they make up in eagerness. They make up in the ability to work those hours and find those answers. as well. They can be very energetic.
Well, we were all there.
Right.
We were all there. And when I was an associate, I was not given big cases. I was given small tasks inside cases that somebody could supervise and make sure, and little by little, as I did and I did and I did, it didn't happen overnight. In today's world, most attorneys, they want to go out of law school on day one and they want 100 cases because they want to make a lot of money. It doesn't work like that, because with 100 cases come a lot of
expenses.
Forget expenses, responsibilities.
Oh, that too.
Responsibilities. So it's when I've been a lawyer for over 20 years, and it took a long time in my years to really get your cases. Now these young lawyers have the expectation from 3 months into going from law school, out of law school, they want cases because they want that nice commission that comes with it. So it can be done like that. Mm-hmm. Experience. Mm-hmm. Yes.
If they partner with older attorneys?
That's the way it should be.
That's
Younger
right.
attorneys should be mentoring for years under older attorneys who can oversee,
That's right.
what they are doing.
Exactly.
Correct. Again, we are for the full hour talking with attorney Michael Roth. If you like to call with a question or a comment regarding SSI or SSD or workman's compensation, the number to call is 313-769-6666 and 519-256-1023. Benefits for children. Let me tell you what the first page says, Attorney Michael Roth. It says that you can, let's see. It says that this booklet is for the parents of children who are younger than 18 years of age.
Okay.
You have to show that these children have very modest means, they and their family, and you also have to show that they have a disability that has a great effect on their day-to-day life, so to speak. It has to be a medical condition, and the income, must fall within the eligibility limits, and that amount can differ from one state to the other. When a child qualifies for SSI, they consider the income of the parents, the family members living with the child,
mm-hmm.
and they consider the resources. The resource is something different than the income. Income is the money they bring in every month. The resources are things that they own, and these rules apply if the child lives at home, or if your child, is away at school but returns home from time to time and is under your control.
I was going to say that
mm-hmm.
that if the parents are actually contributing into the Social Security disability system.
It's called SSDI.
Correct.
Yes,
Actually,
and they say, yes, thank you. They call that SSDI, and the technical word here is, or the technical sentence.
Child Insurance Benefits, CIB.
Yes, and also they say that they call it SSDI because they are on the parents.
Mm-hmm.
It's on a parent's Social Security earning record. We call this SSDI for a child, not SSI, because it is paid on a parent's Social Security earning record. What does that mean?
Well, if you have parents, they're working, and every month or bi-monthly, an amount is taken out of their wages, and that is going towards their retirement on the Social Security
system. You mean
system.
They are working?
Yes.
They are earning credits.
That's
earning
exactly
credits.
Like you started with.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so by virtue of the fact that they are going to be insured either for disability or early death or retirement, it means that their child, and that can get very complicated, defining child.
Oh my goodness,
I know,
yes.
I know. That means the child would also be insured even though the child is under 18. In fact, the child would be insured if he or she was disabled before the age of 22, even when they reach adulthood. They'll be insured under their parents' insurance status.
Mm-hmm. They say here that your child must meet all the following requirements to be considered disabled and therefore medically eligible. the child who is not blind must be working or earning more than $1,220 in 2019.
Okay, you're saying that is for the disabled child's eligibility?
That is, I believe, when a child is disabled and working, he should make no more than $1,220.
That would sound right.
I do apologize.
No.
The medical condition for a child to qualify for SSI is a condition or a combination of conditions that result in, quote unquote, marked and severe functional limitations. In other words, the conditions must seriously limit the child's activities.
And it's different for an adult. I'm so glad you pointed that out.
Well, I am reading from the Social Security Administration.
No.
I am learning as I go.
But they're giving the child the flexibility by that definition to be eligible.
Is it easier?
It's somewhat easier.
It's easier for an SSI, for a child
Yes.
under 18 to get SSDI
Yes.
than it is, did I say it correctly,
Yes.
SSDI?
Well, it can be either. You see, this is, if a child is going to, and I don't want to use the word disability.
SSDI,
If a child is going to be eligible for either program, with that definition you just read, okay, it's going to be based on the functional of the child. It's going to be based usually on perhaps a special education record that most likely exists for the child. And that's why they've given you a different definition for the child as opposed to just disability for the parent or adults.
Right. And they say that the condition has either disabled him for a year or is expected to disable him for a year. So
Correct.
depending on what the condition is,
Correct.
the information that you provide if you apply for your child for Social Security disability is not just the medical records, school records.
School records are essential.
Therapy records.
That's right.
And any other professionals who have, who know about the child. And with the children, the Social Security Administration will send the information to the Disability Determination Service where doctors
Yes.
and other trained people will review the information.
It's a state service. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes, depending on the condition, they say that generally speaking, it takes 3 to 5 months for you to find out if your child has been accepted for SSDI.
If that's what it's saying, yes.
Well, it's federal.
Okay.
So maybe Michigan is different and maybe Michigan is slower.
I would hope it would be faster.
I think that those estimates are nationwide.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're saying 3 to 5 months, they're saying nationwide. If you average all 5 states, then it is all 50 states, then it's taking 3 to 5 months. And then they say that sometimes while a child is waiting, they will pay immediately rather than make them wait.
That's right.
And then take their time to look into this. What is your experience about the length of time that it's taking children in the state of Michigan lately?
I've only come into cases where they were cutting off benefits or switching benefits.
We'll talk about that in a minute when the child turns 18.
Right. So,
Okay.
So my experience has already been, can you come in? Are you sure that this amount is correct? Because the child is already developmentally disabled and already receiving benefits.
Mm-hmm.
I have had cases where we did get it started for younger children, even where it went to hearing. So there are those as well. But usually the child is either insured or has already become designated eligible.
Okay. And they list here some of the conditions that are kind of slam dunks, so to speak, but that's just the ones right out of the box, like total blindness, total deafness, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, muscular dystrophy, severe intellectual disability for a child 4 years or older, a baby who's born under 2 pounds, by the way, will also receive SSI. They have the right to review the child's condition from time to time, at least every 3 years for children younger than 18. I want to talk, we might take a call, and then after the call, or we have 2 calls, if our time permits, I want to talk about what happens when your child who is on SSDI turns 18. Does she or he get to keep SSI payments and Medicaid and we'll talk also about yes. So let's take the first call if we can. Hello.
الو مرحبا.
يا أهلا وسهلا.
كيف الصحة ست؟
كتير منيحة، كتر خير الله. وحضرتك؟
أنا بخير إن شاء الله، بس عندي سؤال، شو مقصود بالاس اس دي؟ لأن أنا عندي طفل ديسابيلتي وحاليا دا أخذ له يعني سنتين، بس ما أعرف شو المقصود بالاس اس دي.
أوكي.
يعني.
مع مين عم نحكي أستاذ؟
أنا معك حسن الشويلي.
يا أهلا وسهلا أستاذ حسن.
مرحبا.
His question is, what do we mean by SSD? Do you want to tell him what SSD
Sure.
means?
SSD stands for Social Security Disability.
What does that mean?
Thank you.
Who qualifies?
People who are usually have insured status for disability means that they have been making those regular credit contributions. So out of their employment wages, they've been putting money into their Social Security savings or trust funds.
So put differently,
Yes.
SSD is for people who become medically disabled but who have worked into the legal system, into the tax system in the United States for a number of years and earned the credits needed.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
And أستاذ حسن،
نعم.
الشخص اللي حضرتك عم تحكي عنه، هل هو شخص كان يشتغل؟
لا، هو ابني عمره شيء 13 سنة يعني لحد الآن ما في عندي شغل.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he is not talking about an adult who works so that we can talk about credits. He is talking about his 13-year-old son. فيك تشرح لنا شوي عن وضع ابنك الصحي؟
هو عنده مرض سباينا بفيدا اللي هو قطع
سباينا
بالحبل الشوكي.
بفيدا. yes.
Okay. Yes.
هو ياخذ يعني هسه حاليا في موجود بنفيت ليلى في البيمنت في التامين الصحي، بس المشكله اللي عندي التامين الصحي ما بيغطي كل شيء يعني مثلا
الميديكيد
ما بيغطي كل شيء يعني مثلا اكزامبل اذا صارت في عمليه بتكلف شيء 40,000 او 50,000 مثلا اكزامبل الانشورنس، او اعطيك مثل ثاني بيكون اصح. اليوم انا كنت في المستشفى مشان الويل تشير اللي عنده، والويل تشير اللي عنده يعني في اعطال. خيروني انه انا اتصل بالشركات واقوم بتصليح الويل تشير على حسابي انا. المفروض هو يتغطى من قبل الانشورنس، بيخبروني انه الشركات الانشورنس ما بتغطي الويل تشير او ما بتصلحها الا بعد مرور 5 سنوات، وهذه مشكله طبعا.
Okay. What he's talking about is his 13-year-old son who is on SSD benefits and receives Medicaid because of spina bifida. The frustration that Mr. Hassan has is that there are a number of tangential medical bills that are not covered by Medicaid. For example, he was talking about the wheelchair. The wheelchair needed some adjusting and they told him they will not cover it. Can you tell us a little bit about what's not covered under Medicaid, whether it is for an adult, or is it true that not everything is covered?
It believe it or not, Medicaid, if you qualify for it and it's based on how much money you make and what your assets are, can actually provide more than Medicare. Medicare is the plan in which you pay into, just like SSD, you pay regular contributions or premiums into it, and it provides you with, basic hospitalization and medical care. Medicaid will be for people who have those special needs. As far as the wheelchair is concerned, Medicare would definitely not pay for something like that. But, and I would include, if it's interfering with his ability to appreciate a full and appropriate public education, that school district might actually be responsible for paying part of that repair to that wheelchair. If he can't go from class to class, if he can't board a bus or get off of the bus, or it's causing hardship in the bus, the school district might want to look at that and take responsibility or something for that.
Pursuant to what laws or regulations?
I can't really tell you. I can't cite our state statutes for special education.
Which is okay, but are you saying that there are laws pertaining to special education? أستاذ حسن، ابنك بيروح على المدرسة؟
نعم، وعنده برنامج خاص بالeducation.
Okay, special education. So you're saying that under the laws pertaining to
Special education or the regulations or cases. Here, there are services that are called ancillary services. It means that they're not services that they're getting in the classroom, but they might be services they're getting in the lunchroom. In other words, if there were services out there, what's your son's name, Hassan?
شو اسمه ابنك أستاذ حسن؟
اسمه علي.
Ali. If, for instance, if there are services or products that would assist Ali in getting a free and appropriate public education, which is in the statute, then the school really has to provide those services. I think a wheelchair would definitely be within that range. I mean,
so would Mr. Hassan need to consult with a school law attorney?
He should first actually at the next IEP, at the next individual education plan.
Which is with the Social Security Office?
No. It's right there in the school district, and you all sit on the little chairs and stuff like that when you do it. Here, he could ask for an IEP now, an individual educational placement meeting. He could meet with the teacher. He could meet with the director of special education services for that school. And he could just say, hey, listen, the wheelchair fixes so many problems that we're having right now in terms of, Ali appreciating or getting, the better services, more out of his education. And
so the argument is what? The argument is that he will approach the school saying you need to pay for the wheelchair because...
That's right, because it's an ancillary service, and without that service, Ali cannot really maximize the benefit of the education provided.
So the wheelchair is an ancillary service?
It can be, of course.
An ancillary service without which
he cannot, without which he will not get, we call it a FAPE, F-A-P-E, a free, appropriate public education.
Okay. أستاذ حسن عم بيقول المحامي إنه مزبوط إنه under Medicaid مش كل شيء مدفوع 100%. الويل شير هي ما بتكون مدفوعة 100%، بس بيطرح عليك في قوانين للأشخاص اللي بحاجة لسبيشال إديوكيشن مثل ابنك. بيطرح عليك تطلب من المدرسة إنه يعملوا له شيء اسمه IEP. IEP is what again?
An individual educational plan.
Educational plan. And is that for people who...
عملوا له هذا ال IEP. عملوا له كان التقييم مالته SXI.
The conclusion was SSI?
SXI.
Okay, but that's not... بس مش هذا اللي عم نحكي عنه. ارجع اطلب IEP إضافية وقل لهم انه الويل شير تبعه ما فيك حضرتك تدفع حقها. ويقول هو انه بقانون السبيشال اديوكيشن اللي بتخص السبيشال اديوكيشن تعتبر الويل شير شيء بيسموه ان ancillary service، يعني هو شيء بليه ما بيقدر يكمل بدراسته.
بالضبط.
So في قانون هو مش ال SSD ولا هو الميديكيد، هو قانون بيختص بالأشخاص اللي عندهم إعاقة.
نعم.
وبهيدا القانون فيك تطلب من المدرسة ليطبقوا القانون ويغطوا الويل شير اللي هي تعتبر is an ancillary service. ancillary service هي يعني جملة قانونية. ancillary service يعني بالعربي الفصيح يعني هي شيء محتاج له لأنه بلاها ما بيقدر يكمل بالeducation تبعه، بدراسته، بثقافته.
نعم.
سو أنت بدك تطرحها مع المدرسة بهالطريقة، تطلب IEP إضافية وتطلب إنه يعتبروا لك ويدفعوا حق الويلشير as an ancillary service. Michael?
Hassan, is Ali what we call general education? Is he basically in with the regular folks who are going from regular class to regular class?
No, he is in special education.
Yes.
Ali عم ياخد special education.
But is he in the same building?
لا هو في مدرسة عادية طبيعي مع الأطفال البقية.
Oh, he is with everybody else.
Okay, great. So that has to enhance the argument for the wheelchair, so he can continue, because the whole point...
Because regular classrooms are not made for people who are,
we want these folks all together. We don't want them seeing the distinction between each other. So the more that they're in regular class, the more
they are integrated.
That's right.
And they don't feel different.
That's
but
right.
Why would that make his argument stronger?
Because a lot of communities are keeping some of their more complicated cases in separate buildings, which is a terrible wrong, both for the student, special ed student, as well as the regular students. I shouldn't even call them regular students. It's wrong. We have a society that's open, and everybody should have access to it. So really, only under the most exceptional circumstances should they have they shouldn't have separate buildings.
But going back to the fact that you said the fact that he is in regular school,
Correct.
not in specialized education, will make his case stronger.
He's designated special education.
Uh-huh.
So he'll go to some supplemental classes, or they have a resource room where they go and they beef up those skills that aren't doing well. Okay. In his case with spinal bifida, it might be physical therapy classes, or not physical therapy classes, but something to assist him physically.
Yeah, with mobility and motion.
Right, but when it comes to math or English, he might be a star.
But why is it that if he's in a regular school with everybody else, that his case for getting the wheelchair paid is stronger?
Because this way he gets to go from class to class rather than not going from class to class.
Okay. أستاذ حسن اطلب من المدرسة تعمل معهم اجتماع وذكرهم بالقانون اللي مفروض through it انه تقدر تحصل على دفع الويل شير.
نعم. طيب اذا في وقت، انا اسف على الاطاله، بس في سؤال بعد ثاني.
تفضل.
اذا امكن. الانكم اللي انا احصل عليه ياثر على الاس اس اي، البيمنت اس اس اي للابن او للشخص المعاق؟
طبعا.
يعني اذا
طبعا. His question is, does dad's income affect the son's ability to get SSI? قبل ما أطلب منه يجاوب, I even read it in the booklets that if a child is otherwise eligible and has the medical condition, but if the parents' income are above the requirement, then the child will not get SSI.
Well, that's right, unless, of course, they've been contributing to the SSD. I mean, if they've been doing that, you're right. And they're not going to look at just the parent, they're going to look at the whole household. If you have brothers and sisters, Ali's siblings, who are actually making money and living in the household, then you may not be qualified for the SSI or supplemental security income. But I'm curious, because if there's income and there's contribution to the Social Security disability, savings or trust, why isn't he qualified for SSD?
أستاذ حسن، نعم، مدخول العائلة بيأثر على حصول ابنك على الSSI.
Okay. شكرا جزيلا.
يا أهلا وسهلا. A very quick question, Attorney Michael Roth, before we wrap it up. We have 5 minutes. If the child does not receive SSD because the parents, although he is medically qualified, the parents' income are too high, will he have Medicaid coverage?
Yeah, under SSI program, he would be eligible under Medicaid.
Right. And this is what it's saying here. It's saying a Medicaid coverage will continue even if, the earnings are not high enough for SSI.
Even
Yes.
if the child should graduate, if the child should, when the child's birthday is his 19th birthday, he would qualify as anybody else for SSI based on the fact that his income is insufficient.
And since we have about 4 minutes,
providing, of course, he continues to be disabled. I have to include that.
Of course, has the medical condition that under the federal rules, would lead us to conclude that he is disabled. So going back to that question, what happens when your child turns 18? Mm-hmm. So sometimes, a child becomes an adult, becomes 18, and was receiving SSD and was receiving Medicaid. So they say here that once the child turns 18, they use they use different rules, because now they're looking at him or her as an adult. Mm-hmm. So once the 18-year-old, and to answer Mr. Hassan, before 18, getting the SSI depended on how much the income and the resources of the family was. Once he turns 18, they no longer count the income and the resources of the family member, except if he has a spouse, correct?
They would count the income of that spouse.
Yes,
right.
But if the 18-year-old or 19-year-old gets married, but otherwise they don't count anymore his parents, whereas at 17 and a half, they counted the income and the resources of his parent. They also will review, once a child who's 18, who was on SSI, turns 18, they're going to review the medical condition again and see if he's still eligible. And it says here also, even if your child was not eligible, so some people have the disability, but they're not eligible for SSI because their parents make too much. Even if your child was not eligible for SSI before 18, now he may become eligible because they don't count.
Right.
They don't count the parents' money anymore.
Again, providing that disability continues.
No question.
Right.
We're talking about income and the income of the parents, because Mr. Hassan talked about whether or not how much money he makes affects whether or not his son will continue to get SSI. And the answer is absolutely yes.
Yes.
Because as a minor, they count him with his family. But once your child, Mr. Hassan, becomes 18 in 5 years, you can be a multimillionaire and it's not going to matter because they're going to look at him separately. And if he still has the medical condition to qualify, and now they're looking at him and they're not looking at the income of the parents.
They will be looking at his income, providing, of course, also the disability and assets. He won't be able to possess a certain quantity of money as well as other items of value.
And we talked about income and resources, but we didn't define resources. Give some examples of resources that the Social Security Service will take into consideration in deciding whether or not someone and their family are below or above the requirement.
Non-income or non-employment income resources. If there is rent coming in for a property that he owns in his name, he's acting like a landlord, and there's that would be resources that would be counted against eligibility.
But give me some of the common examples of resources.
Okay, well, other resources are you talking about assets or income?
No, not income, assets.
Assets, sure. You would look at a vehicle. Okay. You would look at a house. And although these items can be exempted under certain circumstances.
Because you have to live.
That's
you
right.
have to have a house.
And
you have to drive a car.
Correct.
Okay.
And then, of course, if you have any type of property that's income producing, that would be an asset.
Okay.
Money in the bank, $2,000 is really usually your general limit. Anything more than that, you won't be eligible for Medicaid services or state-sponsored services.
Unless as a couple, $3,000.
Okay. That's right. Thank you.
I know we've been all over the place today, but that's fine. I hope that, everything we said today was important in some way to someone out there. I thank you very much, Attorney Michael Roth.
It's my pleasure to be
For
here.
those
Thank
who
you.
want to listen to this again, they will have it on the website. They can listen to it on the website in about a week at yourrights.radio and on the Joumana Kayrouz YouTube channel in about a week as well. God willing, we will resume on Thursday at 12 noon, and we are going, or 12:05 p.m., and we are having Attorney Michael Bankstein, another Michael Bankstein, and we will be talking about bankruptcy, Chapter 7, Chapter 11, debt management, payment programs, and the like.
تمام. شكرا لك جمانة، ونشكر أكيد كل مستمعينا على حسن المتابعة. دمتم في رعاية الله، إلى اللقاء.